I'll tell you, Barbara never would have said that.
You know, there were many times where Barbara had a stick at the ready, you know, to punish me for even suggesting something like that. But the truth is that
I ran into that with her too, by the way.
Oh, you know, that's a relief actually, because I thought it was just me. You know, being the guy who studied directly under her for a decade, that woman has forgotten more about this than most of us will ever know. But she was very spiritual and very mystical and had a very different way of doing this than Brendan has.
Let us not speak of her in the past. She is still around.
We're eulogizing her, right?
Yeah, she's still around.
Yeah, she's
probably kicking the radio right now, but she's still around. So you actually think, some of these you believe, and I do too. I must say, I think I've heard EVPs from demons. I really believe that, or either that or somebody really screwing with you.
Right. Well, we've got some things here tonight that Brendan and I have recorded and have had sent to us over the years. A culmination of the three that will really give you pause. Really going to make your blood run cold. One of these, well, more than one of these, several of these, made me physically nauseous when I heard them.
Right. That's been my experience in past shows, and hence my warning to the audience. All right, let's get underway. I had to do it, and so I did listen to the first one. I thought it was not particularly good, but let me reevaluate as I listen. Now, what's really cool is that we're on Sirius XM, and people are getting really good signals, so they're not straining to hear this through the static of an AM station 600 miles away.
Right.
They're going to be hearing it very clearly. So tell me about number one, and then we'll take off here and do it.
All right. So in this one, you remember years ago the mausoleum that we always talked about. That
yes.
I mean, we have done this mausoleum investigation, I would say, over 150 times, and we just barely went back. What was it? 2 weeks ago?
About 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually hear the owner of the mausoleum, his wife, says that poor girl is going to be terrified. And she's referring to this girl that we had brought. It's her first ghost investigation she's ever done. And the mausoleum, honestly, for anybody who hasn't been there or hasn't ever done this, is one of the scariest places to ever go. I mean, whether you're doing ghost stuff or not, I mean, it's just to be there is terrifying.
Okay.
So you hear that woman say that poor girl is going to be terrified, and then an EVP says, Ben, come over here. And the EVP is almost androgynous. It's not
male or female. We can't really tell.
To me, it doesn't even sound male or female. It just sounds like a voice. And here's the contextual thing we were talking about. Ben, which we talked about earlier in the show, Ben Hansen from Sci-Fi's Fact or Faked, was about to show up at this investigation. He hadn't come yet.
Oh,
he was actually on the parking lot roughly this time.
All right. All right, here it comes. Let's all listen. Number one. Here we go. I think. On number one. Play.
That poor girl's going to be terrified.
All right, I take it back. It was pretty clear to me. Ben, come over here, I think. Ben, come over here is what it sounds like. Now, you serve these up as we go on here, so everybody knows. It's being repeated 3 times. And I think you increase the audio in the third version, or how does that work?
Well, in the last 2, we will amplify it, but that's about it. So what we do is we play everything in context with the investigator speaking, if there's one, or whoever, just so you kind of understand what's going on at the time.
All right, one other thing. When you're on site, in the mausoleum or anywhere else, you are extra careful about who's around so you don't pick up a random voice. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, we control everything that we do. We talked about this, I think, I don't know, it was easily years ago where we were doing the mausoleum and you would ask the same question and we said, we make sure to lock the place. We actually hired police at one point to come out and make sure that nobody else is around.
All right, here it is one more time. Everybody listen carefully. The part that is the voice from elsewhere is Ben, come over here, and it's pretty clear.
That poor girl's going to be terrified.
HIMS helps guys take care.
Boy, it is pretty weird to imagine that's a voice from the other side. And it was pretty loud, too. And also it had a kind of a hollow sound like you would imagine an audio would have in a mausoleum.
It does.
There's a bit of an echo.
Here's the other thing. We talked about the spirit box and all that earlier.
Right.
That mausoleum is completely encased in marble. You don't get radio reception in there at all.
I know, but the hollow sound that we heard would suggest that it was actual audio as opposed to something sent straight to a recorder.
Exactly. And I wasn't so much referring to the spirit box as I was to a lot of people's complaints with the EVP is that these are radio transmissions that you're picking up. You are not picking up.
No, I don't see that. That's why I'm much more interested in the recorders that have absolutely nothing on them and then have this on them than I am in the spirit box. It's something I'd like to investigate, but higher doubts than what we're doing here. This is awesome.
Right.
You guys are pretty sure. I mean, really, you're sure nobody said that.
Oh, yeah. We're absolutely sure.
Here's the hardest thing, Art. The only thing that you have to go by with something like this is us and our credibility and telling you that, no. And in my opinion, again, it goes back to the spirit box. Spirit box is a little bit different because you will have, it's almost like a second stage recording where you'll hear the people in the room. You'll get the intelligent response. You can clearly tell that it's coming through the spirit box and isn't somebody else that's in the room. Again, I'm not a proponent one over the other. It's just two different means to an end. It's just two different tools in your toolbox. With this particular EVP, there were two females that were in the kind of the entryway area of the mausoleum in the chapel area. Everyone else was at the very, very far end, which is thousands of square feet away, not within earshot. And there were no male voices around, and there were two females around. The only way to give you more context at that point is to play longer clips so that you can hear the audio of the people walking up the stairs, walking into the room, having a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yes, this needs to be said. These EVPs, folks, are found by taking the recorder to the mausoleum or wherever you take it, and then going home and listening very carefully to hours of tape, hour upon hour upon hour of investigation to find the EVPs. The spirit box, on the other hand, is designed to give you immediate feedback, which is scary as hell. If you get a contemporary comment thrown back at you, from having asked some sort of question, that's really frightening. So I'm not going to the spirit box right now. I'm doubtful of the spirit box. I'm skeptical.
it's one thing when you think you may be getting a radio frequency, but when you have, the last investigation Brendan and I were on, we were with a reporter from a TV station here that wanted to cover this. Right. And we turned the spirit box on, and the two first words that came out of the spirit box was the C word and the B word and the reporter's name. And there's nobody on the radio that is going to be using profanity and using, especially really hard profanity.
Well, you're not listening to XM much, huh?
That's terrestrial radio. You're not going to get that.
Yeah, that's correct. Terrestrial radio, you're not. The other thing that makes me skeptical about the spirit box, and sorry, but I've got to do this.
Sure.
If somebody wanted to screw with you,
yeah,
I mean, all you need is a little transmitter in the right range, and it would be so easy.
Oh, yeah.
So easy.
Yeah.
But the way these recordings are done, the way I understand why go to the spirit box. If you're in a legitimate investigation, of course you're going to want contemporary responses. But what I like about what we're hearing tonight is that there's no possibility of any of that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they're hard to get. EVPs are hard to get. You got to go home. You got to listen to hours and hours and hours of stuff to get it.
Jimmy said, I mean, it's tedious. It is so tedious. And that's why
I get it.
Include any of the spirit box stuff, because the spirit box is simply a tool. That's it.
No, I get it. And it would be the next logical place to go for you investigators. But when you present something to a national audience, or international audience actually, like now, trust me, what you're playing for them is much more credible is the word. Let's go to number 2.
All right, so number 2. Now, Brendan, this was
the Boston funeral home that we did.
This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear Brendan's voice. You're going to hear him. And Brendan's going to say, can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are, or something to that effect. He says, can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are? Asks a question. And again, you're going to go back to the child EVP, which, it stops my heart every time we capture one of these. The child says, I need you. You need to hide me.
Introducing
Now, nobody heard this at the time, obviously.
And again, this is a funeral home, like in the middle of the night. There's no kids.
I hear you. All right, here comes number 2.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
Wow. Okay, that's clearly a child. No question about it, a child. And you're saying that he says, I need you, you need to hide me.
Well, and we should probably talk about this.
All right, let's talk in one moment. I want to do it once more. I want people really to hear this, okay?
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about it. Here we go.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
You know what I think it says?
What's that?
I need you. You need to hang me.
What?
Well, you bring up an interesting point here, Art, because every time we do one of these sessions where we're going through hours of tape, it's pizzas and snacks and people people sitting in a room and then arguing and offering up their own interpretations. And Brendan and Barbara would never agree. Ever.
I know Barbara wouldn't.
It came down to me, it came down to me splitting them up, several different times.
All right, sorry about this, folks, but one more time. This time, see if you hear you need to hang me. Here we go.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
Thank you, Dick.
I'm sorry, guys. That's what I'm hearing.
Again, interpretive, I can hear that as well.
Yeah.
It's all about context again.
Well, it's not even so much that. It's what I was saying before. This is subjective. What I was trying to get to before is these are subjective. When we tell you what these are about to say, it's human nature. You're going to listen for that. It's the Rorschach test.
The power of suggestion again.
Well, one thing's for darn sure, that's a child.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key point. We would love to know nothing more than what exactly that voice is saying, but the key is there's a child's voice there that shouldn't be
there.
It shouldn't exist.
It's in the middle of a mausoleum, right?
No, that was a...
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was in a Boston funeral home.
Good. But still, a Boston funeral home. Probably late at night, I imagine.
Good.
Yeah, it's not exactly the ball crawl at McDonald's,
Oh, you can talk light about that. All right, hang loose, guys. We're going to take a break here. I was pretty sure it said you need to hang me. Now, that isn't what I wanted to hear because, well, who wants to hear? Don't leave me this way is right, and if you do, I'll be nearby with a recorder. This is EVP, Electronic Voice Phenomena, folks, and what you're hearing has been recorded on digital recorders for the most part, and we'll notify you when it's otherwise. Not the Spirit Box. Spirit Box is a good subject for another show. Spirit Box allows contemporary, real-time communication with spirits. These are hard. What you're hearing tonight are hard to do, hard to get, hard to listen to, hard to talk about. But that's what we're doing. Brendan Cook, Jimmy Chunga, my guest. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. I know that this is easier for you, but it scares me. We're going to move on now to number 3. And where was this done?
Okay, so this was at the same Boston funeral home. It was that same night, but it was hours later. And you remember the last voice was a kid.
I do.
Okay, here's the thing that scares me, and this is where Jimmy and I think we talk about this quite a bit on are these actually kids, or are they demons, or are they trying to pretend they're kids? Because you're going to hear me ask, can you describe what it's like where you're at? Which is a common question that I ask, because that's why we're doing this.
Right, we're trying to find out what's there.
What's the nature of the other side?
Of course.
So can you describe what it's like where you're at? And then this child says, I saw something move. There might be monsters over there, which is sad.
Can you describe what it's like where you're at?
Look at something. Maybe monsters. Look at something.
Okay, the first part where the child says, I saw something move, that's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, it's a little tough. That part is, that's, again, this goes back to what we said. It's a consensus between everybody that listens to this, 100 times and says, okay, that's what it says. But the last part
is very clear. And it also, I'm sorry to say, really does sound like something a child would say. There might be monsters over there.
Exactly. And in the context, is that not the most disturbing thing that you have?
It's very disturbing. Yes. Because that is what a child would say.
Yeah.
And you're sure? And you swear on a stack of Bibles there was no child anywhere near this recording?
In a funeral home.
In the middle of the night.
In Boston.
Yeah.
No. There was no.
All right, one more time. Here we go.
Can you describe what it's like where you're at?
I feel something. Maybe once. I feel something. Maybe once. I feel something.
And that's really clear. That's too clear.
It's I want to say wrong. And like Jimmy brought up earlier, it's one of those things where we did this to get answers, and we've ended up.
I understand. I understand. I just don't know what answers we're getting, and I don't know if I like them. First of all, by number, I don't think that many children die compared to adults to justify the percentage of child EVPs you get. What do you think?
And that's the thing.
Well,
you
think about child mortality through history in America. Child mortality is not what it used to be. But back in the 16, 17, 1800s. Here on this continent, child mortality was considerably higher. Just because we're hearing a child's voice doesn't mean it's, of a recently deceased child. It could be, that child could be, could have died hundreds of years ago.
It's true. The ghost phenomena, gentlemen, is it local? I ask this because what we're hearing, obviously, is English. One would imagine that, children and adults are dying all over the world. You don't have to imagine that. You know that. So we're not hearing French, German, Spanish,
and here's
Chinese.
The thing. We're not simply because we're not putting it on the radio. There are, if you go to our site, there are, I would say, at least 30 voices that are in other languages. I mean, we've got everything from Polish to Native American to German to Spanish. I mean, and it's just...
Do you wonder if these are foreign people who passed on here, or they're foreign people who came here after passing on?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you'd have to wonder that. But to give you a perfect example of what I'm thinking of, we were investigating an old pioneer museum. And, there's a common knowledge among people that do this that it's not just places that are haunted, it's people, it's artifacts, it's things like that. In this pioneer museum, it was like, it's hard to describe, but we got this overwhelming sense of this Native American woman and then this Polish woman. And I don't feel anything ever when we do this, but we got this sense of like burning sausage, which you'd associate with Polish. And yeah, so when we listened to our recordings, we had this Polish woman singing some song that we've never heard of. I mean, and this is contemporary, completely contemporary information.
Right.
She's singing this Christmas song that nobody's ever heard in our group. And then I think we played it on your show, actually. And then we had a response from somebody giving us the translation.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and we looked it up, and that was it. I mean, that was what happened. I mean, that's exactly what that woman was saying.
All right, here's something else that I want to get out to the audience, and that is that although you are experts at doing this because you've been doing it for so long, there's nothing in the world that says whoever's listening right now, if they don't believe this, is welcome to go get a recorder, go to a site like this if you have the cojones for it, and do some hours of questioning and talking and see if you get a response yourself. Well, you know what? I've said this in years past. People have said, okay, I take the challenge. I'm going out, and they come back with EVPs that they send to me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. There is nothing. We're not selling anything again.
Right.
We're not. We've considered this as show and tell. That's what we do. We
show and scare, maybe,
for our own benefit, and then we show people, and they can believe what they want. And then we say, you know what, go out and get a recorder and
do it yourself. Yeah, that's right.
And that's one of those things that's so frustrating to me about people that want to have, they want to offer up, certification or diplomas, because anyone can grab an analog cassette tape recorder and go out and try this. We at the GIS, we don't recommend you do it in your own home. That's something we recommend you stay far away from. However, it does not require.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of reasons for this, Art.
Well, it's one of those things where, and again, we talked about this before. If we feel you're going to be scared by what we might find, when people call us and say, "Come into the home and do an investigation. Here's what's going on."
Right.
Our first question is always, if what we find or if what we present to you is going to scare you, what would you do? And if their response is, "I don't think I could live here anymore," guess what? We can't do it.
Very good point. Very good point. All right, number 4, please. Where?
Number 4, we have spent years investigating a location which Brendan and Barbara have mentioned to you before, are called the Exchange Building. Okay. Now, we have the Exchange Building here in town. It's a stock exchange. Stock as in animals, cattle, pigs.
Oh.
Not stocks as in bonds and pieces of paper.
Okay.
And this was an old building that was built in the 1920s, in which ranchers would come into town, or it was earlier than the 1920s, wasn't it, Brendan? It was the early teens or something.
Yeah, it was.
It's very, very old, and the building has been a variety of things in its history. It's been an institution for the mentally ill. I'm trying to be as politically correct as I can. It was an insane asylum at one point. It's also been a drug rehab center, and it's been a hospital, and it's been a variety of things. We capture this EVP sometimes when we do investigations, particularly the Exchange Building. We'll just set up condenser microphones or digital tape recorders or, digital recorders of various types, and then we'll leave the building. So there's no contamination, not even our footsteps can be heard. And in this track, you're going to hear a woman she sounds like she's got an accent. It's possibly a Hispanic accent. Just out of nowhere. Again, there's no context to this, Art. There's nobody talking. No one is asking a question. It's just, a lot of silence. And then all of a sudden you'll hear a female voice say, "Put that thing in his eyes," which is kind of ominous sounding. Yeah, let's take a listen.
Yeah, all right. Here we go. Number 4.
Put that thing in his eyes.
Wow.
Put that thing in his eyes. Put that thing in his eyes.
Oh, wow. That is...
there was just silence. There was no...
That's very concerning. Yeah, that's very concerning. That's very clear. I'm not sure I hear an accent. It's quite clear.
Really? You don't hear any accent at all?
I don't. Maybe somebody else does. We're about to do it again so people can listen. But this one has no context. It just showed up on the recorder, and it's awfully clear. Listen again.
Put that thing in his eyes. Put that thing in his eyes. Put that thing in his eyes.
Okay, you mentioned this was an exchange, right? Not a slaughterhouse.
No. But the thing that is weird about that is that she does have kind of a medicinal, clinical, matter-of-fact kind of tone in her voice, almost like she's performing a procedure. Or
I'll give you that. Sure.
But what the context of it, we have no clue. We don't know.
Also, you would have to. Well, you don't know, but you would have to wonder. Put that thing in his eyes. On the other side. Well, we don't know what's on the other side. We don't know if we have eyes, do we?
Yeah, well, and that's the
Again, more questions than answers.
That's one of the voices that we had got. I think, honestly, out of all the voices we've recorded, one of the most disturbing that we ever recorded was a voice that said plastic eyes.
In the mausoleum. It was in the mausoleum.
Exactly. And it was a contemporary information thing. In other words, it was a voice that we had no idea what that meant until we asked somebody and found out. And, this voice says plastic eyes, and then we go to the mortician and ask, does plastic eyes mean anything to you? He's like, yeah, well, we put plastic eyes in the bodies. I mean, that's something we would never have known.
I didn't even know that. Is that standard practice?
Apparently, we didn't know.
Yeah.
But after embalming, so that when you go to the viewing, so that the body retains its natural appearance. Form.
Yeah.
All right. Onward we go. Number 5, please.
Okay, so this one we're going to go out of the exchange building, and we're going now into a private residence that we actually did just about a month ago.
Right.
And there was, I don't want to say demonic, but that's kind of what it was. I mean, we had a lot.
You got to remember, Art, Brendan is the skeptic. He'll tell all of your millions of listeners that, that he doesn't feel a thing. But as somebody that's empathic and somebody that works with him all the time, he feels things regularly. This was a very dark house. Still is a very dark house. This poor family, I'm reluctant to even talk about it, has been chased to 3 different homes over the past 10 years. And whatever this thing is keeps following them. And we're still investigating this. As we're talking to you now, an investigation is ongoing with this poor family.
Did they invite you specifically?
Oh, yeah. They didn't even invite us. They begged. Us.
And we kept telling them no, and they wouldn't let up because, typically, what we tell people is that when you're dealing with something that's demonic in nature or what is potentially demonic in nature, that's never been human and all it wants to do is hurt. The fun times of ghost investigating are over. This is not something you mess with, you run. And that's all you do. You don't mess with it.
You're telling me this family has moved 10 times?
No, 3 times over 10 years.
3 times over 10 years, and they've been chased out of their other homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's attached to specifically the daughter.
How do you know
the
that?
daughter is grown, by the way, not a little girl, but a woman in her early 30s.
Right.
And how do you know it's attached to her?
Do you want to explain this, or I don't know if I should.
I'll be as vague as I can without violating the privacy of the family. The father of the family suffered a violent death. Was found out on the street with a bullet in his head. Police ruled it a suicide. They don't feel it's a suicide. They said he had, no pun intended, he had some personal demons. And shortly after his death, that's when the paranormal problems started happening with the family. They thought it was attached to the house they were in. So they moved, and it kept happening. And now they're in a new location. The kids are, the daughter of the man who was killed, she has her own children now. And they're all mortified in this house. I have 2 hours of interviews of these people just sobbing and begging for help. And, Brendan was in the master bedroom of, where this woman sleeps and had objects thrown at him. And this is the real giveaway here. Brendan, who you've known for years, Art, came to me and said, I want to get the hell out of here.
And here's the reason. Because and we've talked about this, and we can talk about it later. EVP is not normally heard at the time. I mean, it's not, when you record this, it's not normally heard. You go back and you listen.
It's recorded on frequencies the ear can't.
Yeah, you don't hear it in real time.
Exactly. No. You listen to hours of tape, and then you might get one word, and that's it.
Right.
So when we were in this house, I mean, I can count on 2 fingers how many times I've heard an actual audible voice. And we're sitting in this house. We're conducting interviews. Jimmy had taken one of the the daughter outside to do an interview. I had one of, I think it was the mother in the living room doing an interview with her. And I'm doing the interview, and all of a sudden I just hear non serviam, which, I grew up Catholic, so I know what that means.
That's Latin.
For I will not serve. Okay. Which that absolutely, you talk about hearing EVP in different languages. We become really terrified when you start hearing EVP in Latin, which is a dead language. Sure. People don't know it, especially in the United States. And, unless you're a devout Catholic, you don't really know much of it at all. And, when we've got this skeptic in our group that comes running to me and says, hey, we got to get the hell out of here because, and Brendan, the term for people who don't know, I will not serve was said by, what? I will not serve in Latin was said to our angel.
Well, it was said by Satan.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I was trying to lead you into that, Brendan. Brendan was ready for a smoke. Because he said, like, I'm done. Where's my Dunkin' Donuts?
Let's play it. This is done in the private home you just heard about. Listen carefully. What you're going to hear is hate you. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here it comes. Ugh. Oh, that is weird. My God, that's weird.
Yeah, it's really scary.
I do hear the hate you. Very drawn out, with a kind of a thing at the end.
And it's breathy. I mean, it's almost like whistly, kind of like just wheezing.
And if you listen carefully, you can sense, at least I sense, there is absolutely not one redeeming tone in that EVP. I mean, not one good.
I hear nothing redeeming.
It's just pure evil.
Yeah. I'm hearing a little breakup on your phones that may be coming from who knows what.
It's probably me moving around. Sorry.
Really? Please stay close to the base units if you're on a portable. Please.
Absolutely. I apologize.
Okay. That's what happens. Here it is one more time. Listen very carefully. It's hate you with a little thing at the end, and it's very drawn out. So here. Yuck.
That's pretty grim.
Here it is again. If I was in an 18-wheeler in the middle of the night driving across the country and I heard that, I would be a mess, an absolute mess. Gentlemen, hold on. EVP, the GIS are here tonight. Been drifting on the sea of heartbreak, trying to get myself ashore for so long. All right, here come my guests again, Brendan Cook and Jimmy Chunga. Well, welcome back, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of territory to cover, and I think we're up to number 6, right?
We are, and this is one of the EVPs that we brought for you tonight, Art. That is, frankly, it's really disturbing. We've played this for people and had them cry. Because it's just so disturbing. It comes from, we actually did not record this. And in fairness, we got to tell you, look, because it didn't come from us, its credibility is questioned by everyone in the GIS, simply because we didn't do it. We did not record this. However, it was sent to us by a family in Texas,
okay,
who was being menaced, wanted our help, and was being menaced, had a little boy in the family that said there was something that was menacing him, hurting him, being mean to him, and attacking him in the middle of the night.
Right.
And the family wouldn't listen to him. And, as adults do, as we've all done, kind of dismissed this kid and said, no. Well, he wouldn't let up. And so the dad finally just said, okay, fine. I'm going to patronize this kid and just, placate him, give him what he wants. So he picks up his video camera and says, okay, give me a tour of your room. Show me around your room. Where does this thing come from?
Sure.
And you'll hear in this EVP, you'll hear this little boy that's being attacked by this evil entity saying, this is my baseball glove. This is, you'll hear him directing him around the room, and then you'll see this is the TV. That's where he comes out of. And then the little boy sees movement on the TV that's off. You'll hear him, reference the movement on the TV. And then you'll hear the demon say, I am your worst enemy. I watch you while you sleep.
Oh, God. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Hey, look, my baseball glove. No, my old one. I just saw something move on the screen, Sean. But it's not there anymore. I just saw something move on the screen. I just saw something move on the screen.
Ay.
And of course, the family can't hear it. And the thing that really sticks with me is that horrible growl at the end of it.
What do you mean the family can't hear it? What do you mean?
They don't hear the demon speaking, as the little boy doesn't hear it, the dad doesn't hear it.
Yeah, when this happened, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying about EVP. They're not hearing any of this. And then can you imagine what a shock that is to go back and hear it?
And the little boy says, I saw something move on the screen, but it's not there anymore, as the EVP is coming in.
Well,
I don't like anything that says I watch you sleep.
Yeah.
EVP. All right, one more time. Listen, everybody, very carefully. I'm your worst enemy. I watch you sleep. See if you can hear it.
Hey, look, my baseball glove. No, my old one. I just saw something move on the screen, Sean. But it's not there anymore.
Listen to the growl.
I just saw something move on the screen. I just saw something move on the screen.
Oh, what's interesting about that is if that had been faked, the little boy would not have been speaking over the EVP.
Very true.
Right.
Very true.
Because he had no idea he was speaking over the EVP.
Correct. And it's also the voice that you're hearing. It's been our experience. We've found that when you're dealing with things that have never been human, that have never inhabited a human body, that voice is very consistent with, that kind of timbre and tone is very consistent with other entities that we recorded of, similar nature.
Well,
which lended more credibility.
Evil. Yeah, evil. All right, on to a cemetery.
Yeah, and back to a kid's voice.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I know, right? And this is one of the, aside from a couple of the voices we'll play tonight, this is one of the worst, just because it implies to me that a kid is still around and it's still interacting with people, thinking it's still there, thinking he can still do all that, and that to me is horrible. But we're in the cemetery. This is one of the old analog recording. I mean, this was 99, 2000, maybe somewhere around there.
Right.
And you're going to hear my wife say, "Did you just pull down the blanket?" And Barbara says no. And then you're going to hear this little child say, I did.
Oh,
and then,
right.
yeah, my wife says, did you just feel like a tug? And Barbara says, no.
All right.
And
No children anywhere around, right?
Well, no,
cemetery in the middle of the night.
Well, it's not even the cemetery in the middle of the night. This is a cemetery in the middle of the night in the middle of December. So, again, that's why she's saying, did you pull down the blanket? Because we used to go out into cemeteries and have blankets wrapped around us. It was, that's what you had to do.
I'd want that, too. All right, here it comes.
Did you just pull down the blanket?
No.
Did you feel like a tug?
No.
I did is very, very clear. Very clear.
Right.
A child pulled down the blanket. Once more.
Did you just pull down the blanket?
No.
Did you feel like a tug?
No.
Too many children.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets worse.
I'm sure it does. All right, this next one should be, I think, pretty interesting. There's nothing said before. This is, it just said, what it says is, I haven't heard these, it says baby laughing.
Yeah, this was, again, it's also in a cemetery. You'll hear wind blowing. This was this is one of those situations that we were referencing earlier where occasionally we'll put a digital recorder down somewhere and then leave the scene. And what we did was we set a digital recorder down on the grave of a baby. There's a baby grave. There's a little, marble lamb kind of carved on top of the grave.
Yes.
You get the idea. Yeah. So we set the digital recorder down and walked away. You'll hear wind blowing. Now, there was some arguing within the GIS, Barbara, Brendan, myself, because some of us say that the baby is laughing. Others of us say the baby is crying. It's really subjective, and, I'm interested to see what you think about this.
Well, there's a lot of mothers out there. They should know. Here it comes. Holy moly.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm split too. I don't know. Is that a laugh or is that a cry or is that just, that could be like a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah, it's young. I mean, you can tell just from the tonage. I mean, it's a young child.
And you sure can hear the wind. Here it comes once more. Listen very carefully, folks. You tell me, all you moms out there, you tell me, what is this? I warned you at the beginning of this program. I warned you these things were going to be disturbing, and they are. I really have the hardest time, guys, believing that the God that we all, think of, everybody thinks of some kind of, well, except for one guy I know. Everybody else thinks of a God who wouldn't allow a child. I don't know.
There's a lot of theories.
It is what it is, I guess. I don't know what to say.
There's the theory of residual haunting, which is there's not an actual spirit there. It's just, energy, almost playing like on a tape loop over and over and over through time. And there's not a sentient being there.
Have you confirmed that? In other words, if you go to the same location, are you liable to get the same EVP again and again and again?
We thought we had. At one point, we thought we had been able, and it was at this same cemetery, that we thought we had a residual haunting, and it wasn't with this voice. I mean, it had nothing to do with this voice.
Okay.
Where we would record the same woman's voice over and over and over again. And we thought, again, the radio transmission, are we picking up some radio station? This is some local host that we don't know about. And then we realized that wasn't the case.
No, I don't hear that in any of these.
Yeah.
If there was some kind of broadcast something, I would know.
We've done that once when we used the old recorders, like the old recorders, and this is, again, 15 years ago. We recorded radio stuff, I think, twice, and we knew that's
it's
what
very
it was.
Clearly radio when you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's clear.
And then
I'd know right away.
Yeah.
I'd know right away. That's not what this
because
is.
They have that voice, they have that tonage, they have that you know what it is. And then when we recorded this lady's voice saying, finally, I think it was the 8th or 9th time we had done this investigation, she just said, "I'm completely dead." And it was like...
Intelligent.
Yeah, and it was a self-realization to her, I'm dead, you guys are looking for me. And then we never recorded her voice again.
And that wouldn't be residual. And I'm kind of like you are. I really struggle with this. I don't know that I believe in the residual thing. I struggle.
I wonder if when you said you never recorded her voice again after that, I wonder if once she realized she was dead, she moved on.
Exactly. I mean, and it's cliched. I mean, it's completely cliched to say that, but that's the truth. I mean, once she realized, you know what, I'm not supposed to be here. These people are looking for me. I thought I was part of them, and now I'm gone.
Got it. All right. We have a lot of territory to cover. So number 9.
Okay. So this is another one that was sent to us. If you're ever aware of a book, I can't remember the guy's name who wrote it. It was called Phone Calls from the Dead. And it was documenting phenomena where relatives would call their family after they passed on.
Right.
And they would literally talk to them. And this goes back to, we talked earlier about Thomas Edison and all that, inventing machines to do this. That's kind of the theory behind it. So this was sent to us from Britain, and
really,
it's a message that was left on an answering machine. The family said they had no phone call that came in. Caller ID did not show anybody calling, but all of a sudden this message was there, and you're going to hear the message machine pick up. So it says message something or other, blah blah blah. And then the beep, and then you're just going to hear this gruff man, like, I mean, it doesn't even sound human, almost, say, "They're coming home." And
was this a voice that the people recognized?
Yeah, the neighbor, they actually recognized that this was their neighbor's voice. I mean, this was somebody they knew that had passed on. I mean, even though to us it doesn't sound human, to them, they recognized it.
All right, we're listening for "They're Coming Home." Here it comes.
Hello. Wednesday, 8:12 a.m.
God. Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, it sounds evil, but I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, they actually said in their email that this was comforting. And to hear that voice and the sound, I don't know how you could think that, but because
that wouldn't comfort me.
Yeah.
No way.
Me neither.
No how. No. One more time. Here you go.
Hello. Wednesday, 8:12 a.m.
Hey. Not at all comforting. Not at all. All right.
It's a little bit different than Buzz and Woody jumping back in the toy box, you know?
A little bit.
A little scary.
Glad it's late at night. All right, number 10.
There's a location that's in Salt Lake City. It was settled by Mormon pioneers, and we have this big, I don't want to call it it's a park. It's a state park where historical buildings and, artifacts of the era are kind of on display. It's called This Is the Place State Park. The reason it's called This Is the Place is because when the leader of the Mormons at the time, a guy by the name of Brigham Young, at the university, BYU, He was the prophet of the Mormon Church. He came down through the mountains with hand carts and wagons and looked over the Salt Lake Valley and said, "This is the place." So that's why they call this this area, this park, "This is the place," State Park. You're going to hear Brendan in one of the buildings, which, by the way, the place is just incredibly active and very, very haunted, both by good and bad. There's a lot of really very dark and kind of yicky stuff that we've encountered there, which is strange because it's actually a religious park. But Brendan is having some trouble in this EVP. You'll hear Brendan struggling with his radio, which is a common occurrence there. There's a lot of energy drains there, a lot of drains on batteries and equipment. And you'll hear Brendan say, you know, "Hey, does this radio work? Does this?" You'll hear him kind of messing with it. Does this radio work?
To be fair, I mean, this was me because it's such a huge place. We had to have radios, so I was trying to radio people constantly. And there's actually an EVP that precedes this that we didn't bring tonight. That, I mean, you hear it's like a 2-minute long clip of me just having trouble with this.
Right.
And then this one is kind of right after, and it's like it's the rubbing salt in the wound kind of thing where it's just completely mocking me.
Yeah, you hear a voice say, "I don't like you." It's messing with Brendan's radio intentionally because the spirit that was inhabiting this area did not like the fact that Brendan was there.
Here it comes, number 10.
Hello. Okay. Does nobody's radio work? Oh, my...
Oh, very clear. I heard a squelch break. So obviously, you were messing with the radio or somebody, but that's not where this voice came from. Very clearly, It is not where this voice came from.
Yeah,
One more time,
I
folks.
did not. When I said I was in that house, I did not hear that at the time. I heard the radio messing up, and at one point, I heard it's almost like the spirit box thing again, that where we talked about it, and you know, we heard different.
Yeah, but you don't find these until hours and hours and hours, if not days later.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, all that happened, and then all of a sudden, it's just, "I don't like you," and then.
The only way that EVP could have been better is if it said, "Me don't like you," because it sounds just like Cookie Monster when you listen to it.
Cookie Monster. Okay, here it is.
Hello. Okay. Does nobody's radio work? Oh, my...
You know, it's actually a good thing that you didn't hear that at the time, or probably if you were like me, you'd have been the heck out of there.
Well, it's not even